The sun hung low over Kumasi, bleeding gold into the dust-filled air. Drums thundered in the distance, blending with the sharp crackle of loudspeakers. Banners fluttered across the city square, each carrying the same smiling face, Kojo Mensah, the young rising star of the Unity Party. He stood backstage, his heart pounding beneath his white political shirt. Sweat rolled down his temple, but it wasn't the Ghanaian heat that troubled him. It was the weight of a decision he wished he could undo. From the stage, Chief Kwaka Badu, the party's godfather and Kojo's mentor, roared into the microphone. Today, we celebrate a son of Ashanti land, a man whose loyalty to his people is unquestionable. The crowd erupted. Flags waved. The chant grew louder. Kojo! 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 Behind the curtain, Efua Nyarko waited, smiling softly, holding a small wrapped gift in her hands. A carved wooden pendant she'd made herself. She'd come to surprise him, proud of the man he was becoming. She had loved him since university, when they both walked home from lectures under the rain, dreaming of a simple life together. But Kojo wasn't smiling. His eyes darted nervously to Chief Badu, who motioned for him to come forward. The old man leaned close and whispered, his voice low but sharp. "Remember what I told you. Today is not just about politics, it's about purity of loyalty. The crowd must know you belong to us, and us alone." Kojo's stomach twisted. "Chief, must it be done here?" In front of everyone. "If you want the parliamentary seat, my boy," Chief hissed, "then let the world see your courage. Real leaders make hard sacrifices." The word sacrifices echoed in Kojo's chest like a curse. When he stepped onto the stage, the roar of the crowd hit him like thunder. Reporters shoved microphones toward him. Camera lights blinked. Kojo forced a smile, lifting his hand in greeting. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I stand before you today as a son of Kumasi, ready to serve with all my heart." Cheers. Applause. He could almost forget the tremor in his voice. Almost. Then, Chief Badu stepped forward again, smiling like a crocodile. "My people," he said, "before we continue, there is one matter we must address. Some have whispered that our beloved Kojo keeps company with those not of our blood, that his heart belongs to another tribe." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Kojo froze. He felt his throat close up. Chief turned to him, still smiling. "Tell them, my son. Tell them where your loyalty lies." The microphone felt heavy in his hand. In the sea of faces before him, he spotted Efua, standing near the front, clutching the pendant she'd made for him. Her smile had faded, replaced by confusion. Kojo swallowed hard. He could say the truth, that she was the love of his life, the reason he even believed in himself. Or he could please the men who promised him power. The silence stretched painfully. The crowd waited. Cameras zoomed in. Finally, Kojo forced a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "My people," he said slowly, "what they say is true. I was once foolish. I let my heart wander to where it did not belong. But that was before I understood my duty to my tribe, to our great Ashanti heritage." Gasps. Murmurs. Someone cheered. Efua's lips parted in shock. The pendant slipped from her trembling hands, falling to the dirt. Kojo continued, his voice growing louder, more desperate, as if trying to drown his own guilt. "I have ended that chapter of my life. From this day, my loyalty is only to my people and to this party." The crowd exploded in applause. Chief Badu grinned, clapping proudly. But Kojo couldn't look at Efua. When he finally dared, she was crying, silent tears streaming down her face, her heart shattered before thousands. She mouthed one sentence, her voice lost in the crowd's noise. "You'll pay for this, Kojo, not by me, but by life itself." He wanted to run to her, to tell her he didn't mean it, but Chief's hand gripped his shoulder tightly. "Well done, my boy," the old man whispered. "You've just secured your future." Hours later, when the rally ended and the music died, Kojo sat alone in his car, staring at the wooden pendant Efua had dropped. One of the security men had picked it up and handed it to him. The carving showed two hands holding a heart, now cracked through the middle. He clenched it in his palm until his fingers ached. His phone buzzed, Dozens of congratulatory messages, praise from party elders, invitations to interviews. But not a single message from Efua. He tried to call her. No response. Tried again. Still nothing. Finally, a message came through. You chose your tribe over truth. I hope it keeps you warm when the lights go out. He read it over and over until his vision blurred. Outside, the city roared with celebration, fireworks, drums, laughter. But inside Kojo's chest, something dark and hollow began to grow. He'd won the approval of men who would forget him the moment he stumbled. But he had lost the one soul who saw him before the titles, before the ambition. And in that silent car, beneath Kumasi's glowing skyline, Kojo Mensah felt something break, not loudly, but deeply. The kind of break that echoes long after the cheering stops. The following months in Kumasi were like a dream Kojo could not wake from. His face was everywhere, on billboards, newspapers, radio jingles. Kojo Mensah, the voice of the people. He was the young hope of the Ashanti region, the man who had proven his loyalty where others faltered. His rallies swelled with thousands. Journalists followed his every move. Party elders called him the son of destiny. But in the quiet hours of the night, when the noise faded, Kojo's thoughts returned to Efua. He remembered her laughter, the way she used to hold his hand as if anchoring him to something real. Now, that hand was gone, and all that anchored him was ambition. 2 weeks after the rally, Chief Badu summoned Kojo to his mansion on the hill, a sprawling estate guarded by men in black suits. Kojo, the chief boomed, spreading his arms wide. My boy, you did well. You proved to everyone that you can put the movement before emotions. Kojo forced a smile. I only did what was expected, sir. Chief chuckled, swirling a glass of brandy. That humility will serve you, but you must learn to enjoy victory too. You'll need to get used to a new life now. He slid a file across the table. Kojo opened it. It was a contract for a major road construction project, funded by the Ministry of Works, worth millions of cedis. Your name, Chief said, will not appear directly, of course. We'll use our company. But the profits, your share, will secure your future. Kojo hesitated. Is it legal? Chief Badu laughed, so loudly that even the guards outside turned. Legal? My boy, nothing that builds your people is illegal. What matters is loyalty. Remember that. Kojo nodded slowly. Deep down, a cold unease crept through him, but it was quickly buried under the weight of new power. By the end of the year, Kojo's life had transformed. He moved into a luxurious apartment overlooking the city. He drove a black Range Rover. His phone buzzed with invitations to political events and private fundraisers. He became the youngest member of parliament in the region. Newspapers hailed him as the golden son of Kumasi. And in the glow of that success, he met Ama Badu, Chief's daughter. She was beautiful, confident, and well-educated, the kind of woman who fit perfectly beside a rising politician. Their courtship was fast and public. The newspapers called it a union of power and legacy. At the wedding reception, under glittering chandeliers and the flashing of cameras, Kojo smiled for the crowd. But his eyes caught the flicker of something else, an emptiness no applause could fill. One night, months after his marriage, Kojo was driven through downtown Kumasi after a party rally. The streets were lined with market women packing up for the night, children chasing after scraps of food, and men arguing over the rising cost of living. He saw, for a moment, what he used to care about, before the speeches, before the suits. He had entered politics to help these very people. Now, he barely remembered their names. His driver asked softly, Honorable, should I stop at the NGO office ahead? There's a group feeding street children. Maybe they'd like a visit for good publicity. Kojo nodded absently, until he saw the name on the banner as the car slowed. Hope Rebuilt Foundation Director, Efua Nyarko. His breath caught. He leaned forward, staring through the window. There she was, standing under a dim streetlight, handing out food to children, her hair tied in a simple scarf. Her smile was calm, radiant, unbothered by the dirt or the noise. For a moment, Kojo forgot who he was. He stepped out of the car. Efua, he whispered. She turned, startled. Her eyes widened. but her expression didn't soften. Kojo Mensa, she said quietly. The Honorable himself. He swallowed. I didn't know you were back in Kumasi. I never left, she said. You did. Her words cut deeper than he expected. He began, but she raised a hand. You don't have to explain. Power has its price, doesn't it? He looked at the children around her, barefoot, hungry, yet smiling. How did you start all this? She smiled faintly. With what you left me. Pain is a powerful currency, Kojo. I decided not to waste it. Before he could respond, her volunteers called her back. She turned to go, but paused and said, You once wanted to change the world. Now the world is changing you. Be careful. It doesn't end well for men who forget where they began. Then she walked away, leaving Kojo standing there, the night swallowing his silence. That encounter haunted him. In parliament sessions, while debates raged, her words echoed in his head. At home, while Amma discussed charity events and social dinners, he drifted away, lost in thought. Amma noticed. You've been distant lately, she said one evening. Is something wrong? No, he lied, staring at his untouched food. Just work. But in truth, guilt gnawed at him. He had everything, power, wealth, respect, yet none of it felt clean. And just as that feeling deepened, a new opportunity arrived. One that would test the last fragments of his conscience. Chief Badu called one afternoon, his tone serious. Kojo, the party needs a favor. There's a government housing project, a big one. We need you to sign off on the contracts before the audit team arrives. It's routine. Kojo frowned. But Chief, I haven't seen the final documents. You don't need to. It's just paperwork. Do your part, and the benefits will be substantial. When Kojo checked the files later, his stomach turned. The project was overvalued. Funds meant for community housing had been rerouted into private accounts tied to Chief's companies. He sat in his office long after everyone left, staring at the papers. His hand trembled as he signed them. And with that signature, he sealed his fate. Weeks later, the scandal began to whisper through corridors. Journalists sniffed around. Opposition members hinted at corruption in the ruling party. Kojo's name appeared in a leaked memo, a small mention, easily ignored. But it was enough. He called Chief, panicked. Sir, there's talk about the housing funds. My name is coming up. Chief's calm voice came through the phone. Ignore it, my boy. These storms pass. Remember loyalty above all. Kojo hung up, but his pulse wouldn't settle. Later that night, while scrolling through news on his phone, he stumbled upon a social media post from a local advocacy group, exposing government fraud in the same project. The post was signed by Hope Rebuilt Foundation. His breath caught. Efua again. Her name burned on the screen, like judgment written in light. The morning it happened, Kumasi woke to chaos. Every radio station, every online headline screamed the same words. Leaked documents reveal misuse of housing funds. MP Kojo Mensa implicated. The news spread faster than wildfire. By sunrise, Kojo's phone was exploding with calls. Journalists, political allies, enemies, and finally, the party chairman himself. Kojo. Chief Badu's voice thundered through the phone. Who leaked it? Kojo's throat went dry. I don't know, Chief. I thought you said. Don't think. Fix it. We cannot afford a scandal before the elections. Then came the click of disconnection. Kojo sat frozen in his living room, staring blankly at the television screen where his face was plastered under the word corruption. Amma stormed into the room, her silk robe trailing behind her. Kojo, what's going on? The house is surrounded by reporters. I'm handling it, he said, though his voice betrayed him. Amma folded her arms. Handling it? You told me everything you do is clean. Is that another lie? He opened his mouth to answer, but nothing came. The silence spoke louder than words. Amma's eyes filled with tears, not of heartbreak, but humiliation. You didn't just betray yourself, Kojo. You dragged our family name through the mud. She turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. And just like that, the fortress he'd built began to crumble. By noon, protesters gathered outside his office, chanting, Thief! Thief! Bring back our money. Kojo watched from the window, his stomach twisting. He remembered the faces of these people, the market women, the drivers, the youths he'd promised to serve. Now they spat his name like a curse. The party quickly distanced itself. The spokesman released a cold statement. The Unity Party upholds accountability. Honorable Mensah will step aside pending investigation. Kojo's phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. Power without truth rots from the inside. Now the world sees what I saw. Yen. Efua. He stared at the message for a long time, his heart pounding. Could she have been the one who leaked it? Desperate, Kojo drove to the small NGO office downtown, the same one where he'd last seen her. The air was thick with heat and dust. His black SUV looked out of place among the peeling walls and barefoot children. Efua was there, sorting files with a few volunteers. When she saw him, she paused, calm, composed, unreadable. "Kojo," she said, without looking surprised. "I wondered when you'd come." He took a deep breath. "Was it you?" "Was what me?" she asked softly. "The leak. The documents. My name." She looked him in the eye. "Do you really think you're that important to me, Kojo? I didn't leak your sins. You did the moment you signed them." Her words hit harder than any accusation. He clenched his fists. "You don't understand. They forced me. No one forced you to betray who you are." For a moment, the silence between them pulsed like a wound. The sounds of the city outside, the honking cars, the laughter of children, felt distant, almost mocking. Efua stepped closer. "You used to talk about fixing broken systems, but you became what broke them. The same power you chose over love is now eating you alive." He swallowed hard. "Is there no forgiveness left in you?" She smiled sadly. "Forgiveness isn't the problem, Kojo. Consequence is." 2 days later, the Parliament's Ethics Committee summoned him. The hearing room was filled with journalists. Cameras flashed as Kojo took a seat, sweat glistening on his temple. The chairman spoke in a cold tone. "Honorable Mensah, you've been accused of authorizing inflated contracts under your supervision. Do you deny these allegations?" Kojo opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, a folder slid across the table. Inside were copies of his signed approvals, payment logs, and private communications. Each page was stamped with his signature. His stomach dropped. "This can't be." One of the committee members leaned forward. "Perhaps you can explain this letter requesting expedited processing for Badu Holdings Limited, signed by you?" Kojo's voice cracked. "Chief Badu told me." The chairman cut him off. "Chief Badu's lawyers have denied any involvement. In fact, he claims you acted independently." The room buzzed with whispers. Cameras clicked. Kojo sat frozen, realizing he'd been outplayed. The same mentor who taught him loyalty had used him as a shield. By evening, the story dominated every news channel. Kojo Mensah suspended from Parliament, facing corruption probe. His friends vanished overnight. The same politicians who once cheered his name now spoke of him with disgust. Amma moved out of their home, taking what little dignity she had left. Chief Badu's men stopped answering his calls. And, as if fate wasn't done, a video surfaced online, a secret recording of Kojo's conversation with Chief discussing the illegal deal. His own voice, his own words. It was the final nail. Late that night, Kojo drove aimlessly through Kumasi. The city that once chanted his name now glared at him through graffiti and headlines. He stopped near the lake, the same place he once took Efua on weekends, when they were still young and dreaming. He stepped out, staring into the dark water, its stillness mocking his turmoil. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, in a whisper, he spoke to the wind. Was it worth it? The wind didn't answer, but somewhere behind him, a faint voice did. Efua's. She stood a few feet away, holding a lantern. "I didn't mean to find you here," she said softly. "But I suppose we both came to remember what used to be." He turned, tears filling his eyes. "Efua, I've lost everything." She stepped closer, her gaze calm, steady. "No, Kojo. You've lost nothing that wasn't built on lies. What's left is what's real, and maybe that's enough to start again." He shook his head bitterly. "How?" The whole country hates me. Then serve them, she said simply. Not with power, with humility. Maybe life is giving you a second chance to be the man you once were. Her words lingered like smoke in the night air. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him alone by the lake. Kojo sank to his knees, the weight of every wrong choice pressing down on him. For the first time in years, he wept, not for power, not for love, but for the man he lost somewhere between them. The first cracks appeared like whispers in a crowded room, barely noticeable, yet impossible to ignore once heard. Kojo's name began to surface in scandals that he had never imagined could reach his ears. At first, they were minor. An aide accused of mismanaging campaign funds, a business partner arrested for fraud. But within weeks, the murmurs turned into roaring headlines. Exposed, Minister Kojo Mensah's secret deals with construction firms. The morning the story broke, Kojo sat alone in his office, the newspaper trembling in his hands. His name, once praised and polished, now bled across the front page in bold letters. His chief of staff, Nanakwame, burst into the room. "Sir, we need to address this immediately. The president is asking questions." Kojo lifted his eyes slowly, his voice calm but hollow. Who leaked it? No one knew. Or perhaps everyone knew, and was too afraid to say it aloud. Within days, the opposition called for an investigation. Protesters gathered outside Parliament, chanting his name like a curse. The same voices that once cheered his every word now spat his name with venom. Kojo's wife, Amma, avoided the media storm by fleeing to her sister's house in Accra. His children were pulled from school to avoid humiliation. His home, once a sanctuary, now echoed with silence. At night, Kojo sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker across Kumasi's skyline. The same city that had once bowed for him now turned its back. He remembered Efua's eyes the day he left her, the way she had looked through him, as though she could already see this day coming. Power without peace is a prison, she had said softly back then. He finally understood. The parliamentary hearing was broadcast live across Ghana. Kojo walked into the chamber, wearing a black suit that hung loosely on his shoulders. His once proud gait was replaced by a weary shuffle. The hall was packed with reporters, cameras flashing like lightning. The committee chair cleared his throat. Honorable Mensah, you stand accused of bribery, misuse of public funds, and abuse of office. How do you plead? Kojo's voice cracked, but he managed to speak. I plead not guilty, but I am guilty of forgetting who I was. A murmur rippled through the audience. The chair frowned, confused. Kojo continued, voice trembling. I built walls where bridges should have been. I chose the approval of men over the truth in my heart. His words weren't part of any strategy. They were confessions, the kind that came too late to save a career, but just in time to save a soul. Outside, a storm brewed. The heavens opened, rain pounding the city as if washing away its sins. Kojo left the hearing drenched, refusing the umbrella an aide offered. He walked the streets alone, the weight of years pressing on his shoulders. He stopped at a small roadside cafe, the kind he hadn't visited in years. A young woman there recognized him, but said nothing. She simply poured him tea and left him alone. The warmth of the cup in his hands made him realize how long it had been since anyone had offered him kindness without motive. His phone buzzed again and again, reporters, party members, allies distancing themselves. He turned it off. For the first time in years, he felt something close to peace in the silence. But peace, as Kojo soon learned, never came without a price. That evening, as he reached home, he found an envelope slipped under his door. Inside were photographs, old ones, of him and Efua laughing at a beach in Cape Coast. On the back of the final photo, a single line was written in neat cursive. You forgot me, but I never wished you harm. There was no signature, but Kojo knew. His chest tightened as tears blurred his vision. Efua's handwriting was as gentle as her voice. He sank into his chair, the photo pressed to his heart, the first real tears he had shed in years falling freely. Days later, the government announced his suspension. His portrait was removed from the ministry wall. Friends stopped answering calls. His mansion became a hollow shell of echoing regrets. In his solitude, Kojo replayed every moment that had led him here. The first speech, the cheers, the betrayals, the choices. He could still see Efua's face when he told her it was over, her lips trembling as she whispered, "You'll climb so high, Kojo, that you'll forget how to come down." And she had been right. The night before his resignation became official, Kojo stood on the balcony overlooking the sleeping city. The moon hung low, pale and tired, like him. He whispered into the wind, "Efua, if you can hear me, I'm sorry." Somewhere far away, perhaps, she did hear him. But forgiveness, he knew, would be another journey entirely. And yet, life had one more twist waiting. The next morning, Kojo received a call from an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end was soft, familiar, and calm. "Kojo, this is Efua." His heart froze. "Efua? Is this really you?" "Yes," she said. "Meet me tomorrow at the old cafe by the river. There's something you need to know." Kojo's world, once shattered, began to stir again, not with hope, but with a trembling sense of reckoning. He knew the next meeting would change everything. The morning broke softly over Kumasi, the mist hanging low over the Adam River like a quiet secret. Kojo stood by the edge of the water, dressed simply in a faded shirt and trousers. Gone was the politician's aura, the bodyguards, the shiny cars, the arrogance of power. What remained was just a man, waiting. He had arrived early. His mind raced with questions. Why now? What did she want to tell me? But deep down, he knew this meeting wasn't about explanations. It was about closure. The cafe by the river was just as he remembered. The same wooden chairs, the same chalkboard menu, the same smell of roasted coffee beans. Time had changed everything else, but not this place. It stood still, like a witness to their story. A few minutes later, a woman walked in, graceful yet grounded. Efua. She had changed, softer around the eyes, a calmness about her that only peace could give. Yet the strength he had once admired still glowed beneath her gentle expression. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a trembling smile, Kojo whispered, "You came." Efua nodded. "I said I would." They sat across from each other, the river murmuring quietly beside them. The silence between them was heavy, but not hostile. It was the silence of two people who had once shared everything, and lost it all to something neither could touch again. Kojo took a deep breath. "Efua, I don't expect forgiveness. I needed to see you, to say the things I should have said years ago." Her eyes softened. "You already said them, Kojo. When you lost everything, I heard your heart speak louder than any apology could." He looked down ashamed. "The things I did, the people I hurt. I thought I was being strong, serving my people. But I was only serving my fear of losing power, of losing approval. And in the end, I lost everything that mattered." Efua reached across the table, her hand resting on his trembling one. "That's what pride does. It blinds us until the light of truth burns us awake." Kojo's eyes glistened. "You were always wiser than me." "I wasn't," she said softly. "I was just free. You were trapped in a world that celebrated your downfall long before it began." For a while they just sat there, two souls finally breathing the same air of honesty after years of deceit and distance. Then Efua said, "Kojo, I didn't call you here to reopen old wounds. I called you because I wanted you to know something." She pulled a folded paper from her purse and slid it across the table. "Read it." Kojo opened it slowly. It was a printed article, a proposal for a non-profit foundation supporting youth empowerment and intertribal unity in Ghana. At the bottom, it read, "Founder, Efua Nyarko. Patron, Kojo Mensah invited." Kojo looked up, startled. "Efua, what is this?" She smiled faintly. "It's the future you once dreamed of, a Ghana not divided by tribe or politics, but united by purpose. The one you lost yourself chasing through the wrong door." He swallowed hard. "You want me to be part of this?" "I want you to redeem what you broke," she said gently. "Not for me, not even for yourself, but for the people who once believed in you." Kojo felt a lump rise in his throat. "After everything, you'd still trust me?" Efua looked out toward the river. Trust? No. But I believe in second chances. Not everyone gets them, Kojo. When karma comes, it doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it rebuilds. That day, something inside Kojo shifted. For the first time in years, he felt the faint rhythm of hope. He joined Efua's cause. Quietly, at first, helping with logistics, writing proposals, reaching out to contacts. The media mocked him, calling it a desperate act of redemption. But Kojo didn't care. He traveled across towns and villages, meeting young people from every tribe, listening to their stories, their struggles, their dreams. With each conversation, he shed another layer of his old self. He found himself sitting in dusty classrooms, helping students apply for scholarships. He met farmers and traders who had once cursed his name, but now greeted him with cautious smiles. Slowly, the hatred faded. Slowly, the man he used to be began to dissolve into the man he was becoming. One evening, months later, Efua and Kojo stood together at a youth summit in Cape Coast. Hundreds of young people filled the hall, waving small flags that read, "One Ghana, one voice." When Kojo took the stage, the crowd quieted. He looked out at them, faces full of hope, ambition, and fire. His voice was calm but resonant. Once, I believed power came from titles, from applause, from standing above others. But I learned that real power comes from lifting others up. The audience leaned in. I lost everything, my career, my peace, my pride. But in losing them, I found something greater. I found truth. His voice cracked. And truth is the only power that never fades. The hall erupted in applause. Efua watched from aside, her eyes glistening, not with romantic nostalgia, but with quiet pride. Months later, when Kojo passed by the old cafe again, he saw children playing by the riverbanks, their laughter echoing through the air. Life had moved on, as it always does. He smiled. As he stood watching them, a breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of rain. He whispered into the wind, as if to the universe itself. "Thank you for breaking me enough to rebuild me." In the end, Kojo never returned to politics, but his story traveled farther than his speeches ever did. Schools used his journey as a lesson in humility and leadership. Newspapers that once destroyed him now quoted him. And on the day he died, quietly, in his small home overlooking the same river, Efua stood by his grave, a white flower in her hand. She whispered, "You found peace at last, Kojo." Then she looked up at the horizon, where the sunrise broke through the mist, golden, forgiving, eternal. Moral lesson: power without substance is vanity. True greatness is not measured by position, but by purpose. And sometimes, karma is not punishment. It's mercy in disguise, teaching us the value of humility before the world forgets our name.